There are some names that just resonate through history, and Jerusalem, that's definitely one of them. For thousands of years, it's been a holy city, a capital, a battlefield, but how did one single city become so important to so many different people? There's this amazing line from the movie Kingdom of Heaven that I think just nails the paradox of Jerusalem. The question is asked, what is Jerusalem worth? And the answer? Nothing. Everything. So that's the big question we're diving into. We're going to peel back 4,000 years of history, layer by layer, to see how faith, war, and culture all mix together to create, well, one of the most complicated and contested spots on the entire globe. All right, so to really get a handle on why this place is so valuable, we've got to go way, way back, right to the very beginning. So picture this. It's about 4,000 years ago. The very first time we even see anything like the name Jerusalem is actually in an old Egyptian text. For about 1,000 years, it was a Canaanite city. But then, everything changes. Around 1000 BCE, King David and the Israelites conquer it, and that single act, right there, set Jerusalem on a whole new path forever. And this is where things get really interesting. This is the moment Jerusalem goes from just being a strategic capital to becoming the sacred heart of an entire religion. So David makes Jerusalem his capital, right? His political base. But according to tradition, there's a problem. His hands are, quote, stained with blood from all the fighting it took to capture the city. So he's forbidden from building God's house there. That massive job, it's going to fall to his son, Solomon. And what Solomon built, wow, it was legendary. The first temple, it wasn't just some building. It was the spiritual center for the entire Jewish faith. It was seen as the one place on earth where God's presence actually dwelled. This is the moment, the exact moment, that Jerusalem becomes forever holy in Judaism. Which leads us to one of the most loaded, sensitive questions in all of history. After all this time, where is it? Where is Solomon's legendary temple today? And this is where you see this huge split between religious tradition and hard archaeological evidence. Jewish tradition is crystal clear. The temple was on the Temple Mount, right where the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound is today. But, and this is a huge but, archaeologists have never found definitive proof. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means we can't prove its exact spot. And that uncertainty, well, it's a massive source of tension even now. So now that Jerusalem is this incredibly important religious center, it's not just a local capital anymore. Suddenly, it's on everyone's radar. It's the ultimate prize for every major empire in the ancient world. And what happens next is just this dizzying, non-stop carousel of conquests. I mean, check this out. In 589 BCE, the Babylonians sweep in and destroy the first temple. Then the Persians, led by Cyrus the Great, beat the Babylonians and let the Jews come back to rebuild. Not long after, it's the Greeks with Alexander the Great. And then, finally, the Romans take over. And it's under Roman rule in 70 CE that the Second Temple gets destroyed too. It's just one empire after another. But right in the middle of all this Roman chaos, something else happens. A whole new layer of sacred meaning gets added to the city. Jerusalem becomes the central stage for the story of Jesus Christ, his life, his death, his resurrection. And just like that, it becomes the holiest city for an entirely new religion, Christianity. Okay, so for a few hundred years, the story of Jerusalem is really defined by Judaism and Christianity. But then, in the 7th century, a new force emerges from the Arabian desert, and it's about to change everything all over again. For Muslims, Jerusalem, which they call Al-Quds, is incredibly holy. Why? Well, it's believed to be the spot where the Prophet Muhammad made his miraculous night journey and ascended to heaven. For a while, it was even the very first Qibla, the direction Muslims prayed towards, before it was shifted to Mecca. And this is why you have two of Islam's most famous holy sites right there, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So in 638, when the Muslim Caliph Umar conquers the city, it's another one of those major turning points. Remember how the Romans had kicked the Jews out centuries before? Well, Umar actually invited them back to live in the city, alongside Christians and the growing Muslim community. So now you've got a city that's sacred to 3 major world religions. And sometimes that led to periods of coexistence.
But it also created the perfect recipe for one of the most violent conflicts the world has ever seen. And that brings us to 1099 and the Crusades. European crusaders, answering a call for a holy war, captured Jerusalem. And their conquest? It was a complete bloodbath. They slaughtered the city's Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. Almost 100 years later, the tables turn. The Muslim leader Saladin reconquers the city. But the way he does it is completely different. In a move that's still talked about today, he shows mercy to the Christian inhabitants, letting them pay a ransom to leave safely. It's such a stark, powerful contrast to the brutality that came before. All right, let's fast forward through a few more centuries of back and forth. We're now coming into the modern era, where all this ancient history becomes the direct blueprint for the conflicts we see today. For a solid 400 years, from 1517 all the way to 1917, Jerusalem was under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. And for most of that pretty long, stable period, it was part of an administrative district that was generally known as Palestine. But when the Ottoman Empire fell apart after World War I, things started changing, and fast. I mean, look at the numbers. In the early 1900s, the Jewish population was around 8%. But then the British took control of the region, and with the rise of the Zionist movement, Jewish immigration surged. This completely changed the city's demographics, and it directly set the stage for the creation of Israel in 1948. So let's just step back and look at the big picture of who was in charge. It's complicated, right? Muslim powers ruled for about 1,200 years, Christians for about 400, and ancient Jewish kingdoms for around 600. But here's the key detail, and it's a really important one. The only time Jerusalem has ever been the national capital of a country was under Jewish rule. For everyone else, the Romans, the Ottomans, it was a holy city, sure, an important provincial town, but never the capital. And that historical fact is absolutely central to the modern fight over its status. And that brings us all the way back to where we started. What is Jerusalem worth? Everything and nothing. You see, its real value isn't in the land or the buildings. It's in these thousands of years of sacred memories, deep identities, and competing stories, all layered on top of each other. And the big question, the one nobody can answer yet, is can those layers ever become a foundation for peace? Or are they just destined to create more conflict forever?